Welcome back to the Ruby Tablet. I'm your host, Ariel, and this is our journey through the essays of the Temple of Set. Last time, we explored the philosophy of Plato, the man who gave us the theory of forms, the allegory of the cave, and the vision of a just society ruled by philosopher kings. We saw how Plato synthesized Egyptian and Pythagorean ideas into a grand philosophical system that would shape Western thought for over 2,000 years. But Plato had a student, a brilliant, critical, and systematic thinker who would change his teacher's ideas and create his own philosophical empire. His name is Aristotle. Today we're exploring the philosophy of Aristotle, written by Michael Aquino. And this essay is fascinating because it presents Aristotle as both a giant of philosophy and a deeply problematic figure. He's the systematizer, the logician, the father of empiricism, but he's also the defender of natural slavery, the critic of Plato who may have misunderstood his teacher, and the philosopher whose works were lost to Europe for centuries, only to be resurrected as Catholic dogma. Let's get into it. The essay begins with Aristotle's biography. He lived in the Macedonian court as tutor to the young Alexander the Great around 342 BC. Imagine that, the greatest philosopher teaching the greatest conqueror. It's a meeting of minds that would shape the ancient world. The philosopher and the king, the thinker and the warrior, together they would transform the known world. Then, moving to Athens, Aristotle founded his own school, the Lyceum, in 335 BC. This was in direct rivalry with Plato's academy. But here's the twist. Aristotle had been a student at the academy for 20 years. He was Plato's star pupil. He was the mind of the school. And when Plato died, Aristotle expected to become the head of the academy. But he was passed over, and the job went to someone else. So Aristotle founded his own school. He created a rival institution. He set out to challenge and critique his teacher's ideas. This is the origin of one of the greatest intellectual rivalries in history. Plato and Aristotle represent two fundamentally different ways of thinking about the world. Plato was the idealist. Aristotle was the empiricist. Plato looked up towards the forms. Aristotle looked down towards the physical world. Plato believed in the immortality of the soul. Aristotle believed the soul perished with the body. Plato believed in the supremacy of reason. Aristotle believed in the importance of observation. And then, in 323 BC, Alexander the Great died. Aristotle, who had been associated with the Macedonian court, was hounded from Athens on a charge of impiety. It's a striking parallel to the fate of Socrates, the great philosopher, driven out by the city that should have honored him. He died in exile a year later. Aristotle's works were lost to Europe upon the fall of the Roman Empire. They survived in the Islamic world. They were preserved, translated, and studied by Arab philosophers like Avicenna and Averroes, and they resurfaced in the time of Thomas Aquinas, where they were treated as Catholic dogma. This is an important point. Aristotle's philosophy became the official philosophy of the Catholic Church. His ideas about logic, ethics, and metaphysics were used to study Christian theology. It's a strange fate for a pagan philosopher. The man who didn't believe in the immortal soul became the foundation of Christian theology. Aquino's essay makes a bold claim. Aristotle attempts to disprove or attack Plato, but his criticisms are somewhat shaky. This is a provocative statement. It suggests that Aristotle, for all his brilliance, may not have fully understood his teacher. Let's look at the evidence. Aristotle rejected the theory of forms. He thought that the forms were just abstract concepts. He argued that the real world is the physical world, the world of particular things. He believed that form and matter are of equal importance and essential to each other's existence. This is a fundamental shift. For Plato, the forms are the true reality. The physical world is just a shadow. For Aristotle, the physical world is real. It's the world we live in. It's the world we can study. But the essay says Aristotle's criticisms are shaky. Why? Because Aristotle accepted the theory of forms in principle. He just denied that the forms are more important than their material manifestations. In other words, Aristotle didn't completely reject the forms. He just redefined them. He made them immanent, not transcendent. He brought them down to earth. This is a classic philosophical move. You don't reject your teacher's ideas outright, you transform them, you adapt them, you make them your own. Aristotle was deeply influenced by Plato. He couldn't escape his teacher's shadow, he just moved in a different direction. The essay also notes that Aristotle attacks Plato's elitism while defending natural slavery. This is a devastating criticism. Plato's work, The Republic, is elitist, but at least Plato believed that rulers should be wise. Aristotle's philosophy includes the idea that some people are just naturally slaves. They're born to be ruled. They're not capable of self-governance. This is a deeply problematic view, and we'll explore it in depth. But let's also consider the possibility that Aristotle genuinely believed he was improving on Plato. He wasn't trying to destroy his teacher's legacy, he was trying to build on it. He was trying to correct what he saw as errors. He was trying to create a more complete system. Whether he succeeded or not is a matter of debate, but his intentions were probably sincere. So, is Aristotle's critique of Plato valid, or did he fundamentally misunderstand his teacher? Can he reject the ideas of someone who shaped his entire worldview, or is he destined to always be influenced by them? This is a question that gets to the heart of intellectual development. How do we break free from our teachers? How do we create something new? And can we ever truly escape the influence of those who shaped us? Let's start with the facts. Aristotle was Plato's student for 20 years. That's a long time. He absorbed Plato's ideas, lived in Plato's world, breathed Plato's air. But when Plato died, Aristotle expected to become the head of the academy, and when he was passed over, this was probably a bitter disappointment. So Aristotle founded the Lyceum. He set up a rival institution. He began to critique Plato's ideas. He rejected the theory of forms. He argued that the forms are just abstract concepts. He argued that the physical world is real. He argued that form and matter are equally important. But here's the thing, Aristotle didn't completely reject the forms, he just redefined them. He made them immanent rather than transcendent. He brought them down to earth. This is a modification, not a rejection. Aristotle was still deeply influenced by Plato. So was Aristotle's critique valid? I think it was valid in many ways. He was right to emphasize the importance of the physical world. He was right to be skeptical of abstract theories, and he was right to look for a more practical approach. But I think he also may have misunderstood Plato. Plato's theory of forms is not a scientific theory, it's a metaphysical theory. It's a way of understanding reality that goes beyond what science can tell us. Aristotle treated it like a scientific theory. He criticized it for being impractical, but it was never meant to be practical, it was meant to be transcendent. So I think there's truth on both sides. Plato was right to look for a higher reality, and Aristotle was right to study the physical world. Both approaches are valid and both are necessary. For the Temple of Set, this is an important question. They're influenced by Plato, they're influenced by Aristotle, they're influenced by many traditions. They have to decide which ideas to accept and which to reject. They have to create a synthesis that works for them. Aristotle ultimately conceptualized a universe of motion and causes. This is what we call mechanism. Everything moves, everything changes, but there must be something that causes motion without itself being moved. This is what Aristotle called the unmoved mover. The unmoved mover is not the personal God of Judeo-Christianity. It's an impersonal force. It's the ultimate cause of all motion. It's the final goal towards which everything moves. It's the pure actuality, the perfect being, the source of all order. This is a fascinating idea. Aristotle is trying to explain the universe without invoking a personal God. He's looking for a rational explanation. He's looking for a cause, and he finds it in the unmoved mover. It's a concept that would influence Thomas Aquinas and the Christian tradition. But Aristotle's God is not a God who loves you. It's not a God who answers prayers. It's a God who is pure thought, pure activity, and pure perfection. And here's the crucial difference from Plato. Individual immortality did not play a part in Aristotle's cosmology. The Aristotelian soul perished with the mortal body. There was no individual survival. There was no reincarnation. There was no escape from the cycle of rebirth. The soul was just the form of the body. It was the organizing principle of the physical being. When the body died, the soul died with it. The only exception was what he called creative reason. This was a universal rather than an individual feature. It was the part of the soul that could grasp universal truths. It was the part that could understand logic, mathematics, and metaphysics. And this part might survive death, but it wasn't personal. It wasn't you. It was just the universal intellect. This is a radical break from Plato. Plato believed in the immortal soul. He believed in reincarnation. He believed in the soul's journey towards the divine. And Aristotle rejected all of this. He was a materialist in a sense. He believed that the soul was tied to the body and that death was the end. For Aristotle, the pursuit of wisdom was not about preparing for an afterlife. It was about living well in this life. It was about achieving excellence. It was about becoming the best version of yourself. There was no reward after death. The reward was in the living. So Aristotle's unmoved mover is an impersonal force, not a personal god. He believed the universe is a mechanism of motion and causes that can be traced back to a single unchanging cause. But this cause doesn't interact with the world the way a personal god would. Is an impersonal god more intellectually satisfying than a personal one? Does it answer the questions we need answered, or does it leave us with a feeling of being cold and alone? This is a question about the nature of God and the meaning of existence. Aristotle's unmoved mover is pure thought, pure actuality, pure perfection. It's the ultimate cause of all motion. But it doesn't love you. It doesn't answer prayers. It doesn't intervene in human affairs. Is this more satisfying than a personal God? It depends on what you're looking for. If you want comfort, if you want a being who loves you, if you want someone to pray to, then Aristotle's unmoved mover is deeply unsatisfying. It is cold, it's distant, it's indifferent. But if you want a rational explanation for the universe, if you want a philosophical principle, if you want to understand the cosmos without resorting to myth, then Aristotle's unmoved mover is very satisfying. It's a logical necessity. It's the conclusion of a chain of reasoning, and it's the ultimate cause. The essay says that the unmoved mover is not the personalized God of Judeo-Christianity. Let's take a look at this. Aristotle wasn't trying to create a religion. He was trying to create a philosophy. He was trying to understand the universe through reason. For the Temple of Set, this is a complex issue. They believe in Set as a real entity. They believe that Set is the only real God, and that all others are human creations. This is a personal God in a sense, but they also emphasize the will, the black flame, the individual psyche. They're not looking for comfort, they're looking for power. They're looking for self-deification. So Aristotle's impersonal, unmoved mover might be appealing to them. It is a principle, not a person. It's a force, not a being. It's something you can understand and not something you have to worship. But there is also something missing. The unmoved mover doesn't give you a relationship. It doesn't give you love. It doesn't give you meaning. It's just a principle. Aristotle believed the soul perished with the body. There was no individual immortality. This is also a radical break from Plato and the Egyptians as well, who believed in the immortal soul and reincarnation. Is Aristotle's view more honest or more bleak? Can we live a meaningful life if we believe death is the end, or do we need the hope of something beyond? This is a question about the meaning of life and the fear of death. Aristotle's view is honest. It acknowledges the reality of death. It doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't pretend there's something beyond. It accepts the finality of the end. But it is also bleak. It takes away the hope of an afterlife. It takes away the comfort of knowing that you'll see your loved ones again, and it takes away the purpose of striving for a better existence. The essay says that the Aristotelian soul perished with the mortal body save for its creative reason, which was a universal rather than an individual egocentric feature. This is a crucial distinction. There might be something that survives death, creative reason, but it's not you. It's not your personality. It's not your memories. It's just the universal intellect. It's the part of the soul that can grasp universal truths. So what survives is not personal. It's not individual. It's not you. This is a very different view from Plato, who believed that the soul is immortal and that you can continue to exist after death. For the Temple of Set, this is also a major difference. They believe in the immortal soul. They believe in the black flame, the gift of Set. They believe that we can become gods. They believe that we can transcend death. This is a much more optimistic vision. It's a vision of hope, a vision of power, and it's a vision of self-deification. But I think there's something to be said for Aristotle's view. If there's no afterlife, then this life is all we have. It's precious, it's valuable. We should make the most of it. We should live fully. We should pursue excellence. We should create meaning in the here and now. Let's dive deeper into Aristotle's metaphysics. He rejected Plato's theory of forms, but he didn't reject the forms entirely. He just redefined them. For Aristotle, form and matter are of equal importance. They're essential to each other's existence. Think of a statue. The matter is the bronze. The form is the shape of the statue. The bronze is the material, and the shape is the form. They're two aspects of the same thing. You can't have the shape without the bronze. You can't have the bronze without the shape. This is a much more balanced view than Plato's. Plato believed that the forms are the true reality. The physical world is just a shadow. Aristotle believed that the physical world was real. It's the combination of form and matter. It's the union of the ideal and the material. This has profound implications. For Aristotle, the world is not something to be escaped. It's something to be studied. It's something to be understood. It's something to be valued. We don't need to transcend the physical world. We need to understand it. We need to live in it. We need to make the most of it. This is a more this world philosophy. It's more practical, it's more scientific, it's more engaged. It's the philosophy of someone who is comfortable in the world, who sees it as a place of wonder and discovery. Aristotle's approach to metaphysics is also more systematic than Plato's. He categorized things, he classified things, he created a framework for understanding the world. He asked, what is substance? What is causation? What is potentiality? What is actuality? These are questions that still drive philosophy today. And this is why Aristotle is so important for the Temple of Set. He provides a rational framework for understanding the world. He provides a method for thinking clearly. He provides a way of categorizing and analyzing experience. Even if the temple rejects his conclusions, they can use his methods. Aristotle believed that form and matter are of equal importance and essential to each other's existence. Plato believed that the forms are the true reality and the physical world is just a shadow. So which view is more compelling? Does Aristotle's balance between form and matter give more value to the physical world, or does it devalue the spiritual? How does this relate to the Temple of Set's emphasis on the will and the black flame? This is a question about the relationship between the spiritual and the physical. Plato believed that the spiritual is more important. The forms are the true reality. The physical world is just a shadow. Aristotle believed that the spiritual and the physical are equally important. Form and matter are two aspects of the same thing, and you can't have one without the other. So, which view is more compelling? It depends on your perspective. If you're drawn to the spiritual, if you're looking for something beyond the physical world, then Plato's view is more appealing. It gives you a sense of transcendence. It gives you a purpose. It gives you a reason to strive for something higher. But if you're drawn to the physical, if you're interested in the world we live in, then Aristotle's view is more appealing. It gives value to the physical world. It says that the world is not just a shadow. It's real, it's important, and it's worth studying. For the Temple of Set, this may be a complex issue. They believe in the black flame, the gift of Set. This is a spiritual principle. It's something beyond the physical world. But they also believe in the will. They believe in action, and they believe in self-deification. They believe in becoming something greater. So the Temple of Set seems to take a middle position. They value the spiritual, but they also value the physical. They see the physical world as a field of possibility. It's where we can assert our will. It's where we can create our own reality, and it's where we can become gods. This is closer to Aristotle's view than to Plato's. Aristotle believed that the physical world is real and important. He believed that we should study it and understand it. He believed that we should live in it and make the most of it. Now we come to the most controversial part of Aristotle's philosophy, his politics. Aristotle attacks Plato as saying that the individual exists only to serve the state. The essay says this is an erroneous interpretation of Plato. Aristotle may have misunderstood his teacher after all. But then Aristotle goes on to defend natural slavery. This is the idea that some people are born to be slaves. They're naturally inferior. They're not capable of self-governance. They're better off being ruled. Aristotle deplores slavery by law, such as the enslavement of prisoners. He thinks it's wrong to enslave people just because they lost a war. But he endorses natural slavery. He thinks it's natural. He thinks it's just. He thinks it's beneficial for both the slave and the master. This is a deeply problematic view. It's a justification for oppression. It's a way of saying that some people are less than human. It's a way of justifying the status quo and protecting the interests of the powerful. The essay also notes that Aristotle believes that war for its own sake is wrong, but conquest can be justified if it benefits both the conqueror and the conquered. This ties in with the natural slavery doctrine. If the conquered are naturally inferior, then conquering them is a benefit. It's a way of bringing them civilization. It's a way of improving their lives. This is the logic of imperialism, the logic of colonialism. It's the logic of the white man's burden. It's the idea that the superior people have a duty to rule the inferior people. It's a dangerous idea, and it's an idea that has caused immense suffering. But we also have to consider the context. Aristotle lived in a world where slavery was common. It was accepted. It was normal. He may have been reflecting the attitudes of his society, but that doesn't excuse him. Other thinkers, like the Egyptians, had more egalitarian views. Aristotle's views were not universal, they were his own. For the Temple of Set, this is a reminder that even great philosophers can be wrong. We can't accept everything uncritically. We have to question, we have to challenge, we have to think for ourselves. Aristotle may attack Plato's elitism, but then he defends natural slavery, the idea that some people are born to be slaves. He also says that conquest can be justified if it benefits both the conqueror and the conquered. How can we reconcile Aristotle's brilliant philosophy with his defense of slavery? Does this undermine his entire system, or can we separate his politics from his metaphysics? What does it mean for the Temple of Set that even great philosophers can be so wrong about fundamental issues? This is one of the most troubling aspects of Aristotle's philosophy. He is a brilliant thinker. He is the father of logic and the father of empiricism. He's one of the greatest minds in history, and yet he defended slavery. He justified the oppression of other human beings. How can we reconcile this? It is a challenge. We can't just ignore it. We can't pretend it doesn't exist. We have to confront it. One approach is to say that Aristotle was a product of his time. Slavery was common in ancient Greece. It was accepted as normal. Aristotle was just reflecting the attitudes of his society. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man of his age. But that's not entirely satisfying. Other ancient thinkers, like the Egyptians, didn't have the same concept of natural slavery. The Egyptians had no caste, racial, or sexual discrimination. They were more egalitarian than the Greeks in many ways. So Aristotle's views were not universal. They were his own. Another approach is to separate Aristotle's politics from his metaphysics. We can admire his logic, his ethics, his epistemology, while rejecting his politics. We can learn from his ideas about form and matter, about causation, about the unmoved mover, while condemning his defense of slavery. This is the approach that most philosophers take. They recognize Aristotle's brilliance while acknowledging his flaws. They don't let his politics undermine his entire system. They take what is valuable and leave what is problematic. For the Temple of Set, this is a reminder that even great philosophers can be wrong. We can't accept everything uncritically. We have to question, challenge, and think for ourselves. The Temple of Set is also an elitist organization. They believe in the importance of the individual. They believe in self-deification. They believe in becoming gods, but they don't believe in natural slavery. They don't believe that some people are born to be slaves. They believe in the potential of every individual. One of Aristotle's most famous lines is, "Man is by nature a political animal." He means that we can only realize our full potential through interaction with other humans. We need community, society, and we need the state. The existence of the state is conceptually prior to individualism. This means that the state is not just a collection of individuals. It's something more. It's a natural community. It's a context for human flourishing. A political environment makes possible language, ordered communication, and knowledge. Without the state, we couldn't speak, we couldn't think, we couldn't know. The state is the foundation of civilization. The goal of the state is the general well-being. Aristotle says the best way of life for individuals as well as states is the life of goodness, duly equipped with the amount of external and bodily goods which make it possible to share in the activities of goodness. This is a vision of the good life. It's about virtue. It's about flourishing. It's about living well. And the state is supposed to facilitate that. It's supposed to create the conditions for human excellence. But there is a tension here. Only in a state with an ideal constitution are the good man and the good citizen identical. Otherwise, there is conflict, forced choice, and ongoing tension between the two. In an imperfect state, you might have to choose between being a good person and being a good citizen. And this is a profound insight. It's a recognition that politics and morality don't always align. For the Temple of Set, this tension is familiar. They often find themselves in conflict with mainstream society. They're outsiders, they're individualists. They don't fit in, and they're okay with that. They're not trying to be good citizens, they're trying to be good Setians. They're trying to become gods. Aristotle said that man is by nature a political animal, and that the state is conceptually prior to the individual. Plato also believed that the state was the psyche magnified, but Aristotle attacks Plato for saying that the individual exists only to serve the state. What's the difference between their views? Who comes first, the individual or the state? And how does the Temple of Set's individualism compare to Aristotle's communitarianism? This is a crucial question in political philosophy. Plato believed that the state was a metaphor for the soul. The three parts of the soul corresponded to the three classes of the state. The goal was harmony, the goal was justice, the goal was good of the whole. Aristotle agreed that the state was important. He agreed that the individual needed the state to fulfill his potential. He said that man is a political animal. He said that we can only realize our full potential through interaction with others. He said that the state is naturally prior to the individual. But Aristotle also attacked Plato. He said that Plato believed the individual existed only to serve the state. The essay says this is an erroneous interpretation of Plato. Aristotle misunderstood his teacher. Plato didn't believe that the individual was unimportant. He believed that the individual's soul was the most important thing. The state was just a way of understanding the soul. It was a model. It was a metaphor. So who comes first, the individual or the state? Plato would say that the soul comes first. The state is just a reflection of the soul. Aristotle would say that the state comes first. We can't be fully human without it. I think both are right in their own ways. The state is necessary for human flourishing. We do need community. We need interaction. We need shared values. But the individual is also important. We have our own souls. We have our own journeys. We have our own destinies. The Temple of Set emphasizes the individual. They believe in the psyche, the isolate intelligence. They believe in self-deification. They believe in becoming a god. This is a very individualistic philosophy. It's a departure from Plato and Aristotle, who both emphasize the importance of the state. But the Temple of Set doesn't reject community entirely. They have an organization. They have members. They have shared values. They're not solitary hermits. They're a community of like-minded individuals. Aristotle postulates right and wrong kinds of authority. Right is rule in the common interest. Wrong is rule in the interests of only a part or some parts of society. There are three types of authority: one, few, and many. Combining the right kinds with the three types results in monarchy, aristocracy, and constitutional government. The perversions of these are tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy, which Aristotle defines as mob rule. The best kind of constitutional government is called the politeia. This is a mixture of democracy, oligarchy, and aristocracy. Government offices are distributed according to a mixture of personal wealth, oligarchy, free birth, democracy, and merit, aristocracy. Constitutional government is the best because it's a mean between the two extremes of democracy and oligarchy. Democracy is the rule of the masses. It's chaotic. It's governed by passion. Oligarchy is the rule of the wealthy. It's selfish. It's governed by greed. The politeia is the balance between the two. It's the rule of the middle class. It's the rule of reason. Power, Aristotle says, should be vested in the middle class. The middle class is moderate. They're not too rich or too poor. They're not too ambitious or too desperate. They're the stable element in society. They're the ones who can keep the peace. This is a fascinating vision. It's more practical than Plato's Republic. Plato wanted philosopher kings. Aristotle wants middle class moderates. Plato wanted a utopia, and Aristotle wants a stable society. Plato was a dreamer, Aristotle was a realist. For the Temple of Set, this distinction is important. They're not interested in building a utopia. They're not interested in ruling the world. They're interested in individual development, in self-deification. They're not trying to create a perfect society. They're trying to create perfect individuals. Aristotle argued that the best constitution is a mixture of democracy, oligarchy, and aristocracy. He called it the politeia. He believed that the middle class should hold power. Plato believed in philosopher kings. Which vision is more realistic? Are we currently living in something like Aristotle's politeia, or are we in one of the perversions, tyranny, oligarchy, or democracy? And what would Aristotle say about our current political situation? Aristotle's politeia is a fascinating political vision. It's a mixed constitution. It combines elements of democracy, oligarchy, and aristocracy. It distributes offices according to wealth, birth, and merit. It's a balance between the interests of the many, the few, and the best. Is this more realistic than Plato's Republic? I think it is. Plato's Republic is a utopia. It's a vision of a perfect society. It's a dream. Aristotle's politeia is more practical. It's based on real-world considerations. It acknowledges that society is complex. It acknowledges that there are competing interests. It tries to balance them. But there are also perversions. Monarchy becomes tyranny. Aristocracy becomes oligarchy. Constitutional government becomes democracy, which Aristotle defines as mob rule. Aristotle is warning us that every system can decay. Every system can be corrupted. Are we currently living in something like Aristotle's politeia? It depends on who you ask. Some people think we're in a democracy. We're governed by the passions of the masses. The media is polarized. The politicians are pandering. The common good is being ignored. Others think we're in an oligarchy. The rich have taken over. They make laws to benefit themselves. The poor are powerless. The middle class is disappearing. And some think we're on the verge of tyranny. A strong man is rising. He promises to restore order. He's manipulating the system. He wants to rule for his own benefit. Aristotle would probably say that we're in the state of decay. He would say that our constitution has become perverted. He would say that we need to return to the mean, to the balance, to the politeia. For the Temple of Set, this is a reminder that politics is messy. There are no easy answers. Every system has its flaws. Every system can be corrupted. We need to be vigilant. We need to think for ourselves, and we need to create our own values. Aristotle's ethics and politics are based on the concept of what he called the golden mean. This is the idea of the middle course between two extremes. It's a practical measure of goodness. It's a way of avoiding excess and efficiency. The golden mean is a form of relativism. It's not like Plato's agathon, the form of the good, which is absolute. It's more practical. It's more situational. It's more about finding the right balance in each situation. Courage, for example, is the mean between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity is the mean between miserliness and wastefulness. Modesty is the mean between shyness and shamelessness. In each case, virtue is about finding the right balance. It's about being practical. It's about being moderate. This is a very different approach from Plato. Plato believed in absolute virtues. He believed in the forms. He believed that there was a perfect standard. Aristotle believed in practical wisdom. He believed that virtue was about making good choices. He believed that it was about navigating the complexities of life. The doctrine of the golden mean is thus one of relativism, rather than one of the absolutism of the Egyptian, Pythagorean, and Platonic philosophical systems. This is a crucial point. Aristotle is moving away from the idea of absolute truth. He's moving towards a more pragmatic, more situational approach. For the Temple of Set, this is interesting. They're not absolutists. They believe in the will. They believe in individual experience. They believe in self-deification. They're not looking for a single universal truth. They're looking for their own truth. They're creating their own values. Aleister Crowley, in his work Magic Without Tears, mounts a tongue-in-cheek attack on the concept of the golden mean. He objects to compromise as a device for seeking answers or virtues. Crowley writes, "There is a great danger in this golden mean, one of whose main objects is to steer clear of shipwreck. Scylla being as fatal as Charybdis. No, this lofty and equable attitude is worse than wrong unless it derives from striking the balance between two very distant opposites. This is a powerful critique. Crowley is saying that the golden mean is a way of avoiding danger. It's a way of avoiding risk. It's a way of playing it safe. But playing it safe is not the path to greatness. Playing it safe is the path to mediocrity. Crowley continues, one of the worst perils of the present time is that in the reaction against ignorant bigotry, people no longer dare to make up their minds about anything. The very practice which the AA so strongly and persistently advocates tends to make people feel that any positive attitude or gesture is certainly wrong, whatever may be right. This is a critique of modern relativism. People are so afraid of being wrong that they refuse to commit to anything. They refuse to take a stand. They refuse to be decisive. They fall into flabbiness. Crowley says, I avoid this by saying, yes, I hate so-and-so like hell. I want to exterminate the very memory of the bastard from the earth, after I have personally superintended having him 7 years a killing, winding up by hanging, disemboweling, and quartering him. But of course I'm not necessarily right about this in any sense. It is merely that I happen to be born the kind of man who feels like that. This is Crowley at his most colorful. He's saying that we should embrace our passions. We should embrace our extremes. We should not be afraid to be ourselves. We should not be afraid to commit to our values. But Crowley also acknowledges that the golden mean can be valuable. He says the golden mean is more valuable as the extremes which it summarizes are distant from each other. That is the plain mechanics of the lever. So don't pay too much attention to these remarks. They are no more than the quiet fireside reflections of a man who has spent all his life breaking records. This is a brilliant conclusion. Crowley is saying that the golden mean can be a useful tool. It can help you avoid mistakes. It can help you find balance. But it's not the goal. The goal is to break records. The goal is to achieve greatness. The goal is to become something extraordinary. For the Temple of Set, this is a crucial insight. They're not interested in moderation. They're interested in transformation. They're not interested in balance. They're interested in becoming. They're not interested in the middle way. They're interested in the left-hand path. Aristotle's golden mean is the idea of the middle course between two extremes. It's a practical measure of goodness. Unlike Plato's absolute agathon, Aleister Crowley attacked the golden mean, saying it leads to flabbiness and that people no longer dare to make up their minds about anything. Is the golden mean a form of wisdom, or is it a form of compromise that leads to mediocrity? Is Crowley right that the golden mean is a formula of the Black Brothers, or is he being unfair? This is a question that goes to the heart of Aristotle's ethics. The golden mean is about finding balance. It's about avoiding excess and deficiency. It's about being practical. It's about being moderate. Is this wisdom or weakness? It's both. It's wisdom because it acknowledges the complexity of life. It recognizes that there are no easy answers. It recognizes that we have to navigate between extremes, and it recognizes that virtue is a matter of balance. But it's also weakness. It's a form of compromise. It's a way of avoiding difficult choices. It's a way of hedging your bets. It's a way of not committing to anything. Aleister Crowley, in his Magic Without Tears, attacks the golden mean. He says it's a way of avoiding making up your mind. He says it leads to flabbiness. He says it's a formula of the Black Brothers. He says it's a way of shutting yourself up in a citadel of civil turmoil. Crowley's attack is powerful. He's saying that the golden mean is a form of cowardice. It's a way of avoiding the truth. It's a way of avoiding the will. It's a way of avoiding the great work. But Crowley also acknowledges that the golden mean can be valuable. He says it's valuable as the extremes, which it summarizes, are distant from each other. It's a tool. It's a lever. It can help you avoid extravagant blunders, but it will never get you anywhere. The Temple of Set takes a similar view. They emphasize the will. They emphasize magic. They emphasize self-deification. They're not interested in compromise. They're interested in transformation. They're interested in becoming something greater. So the Temple of Set would probably agree with Crowley. The golden mean is a useful tool, but it's not the goal. The goal is the great work. The goal is self-realization. The goal is becoming a god. The essay says Aristotle may be credited with endeavoring to interrelate many fields of knowledge carefully and systematically. This is his great achievement. He was a systematizer. He created a comprehensive framework for understanding the world. Aristotle wrote about logic, ethics, politics, metaphysics, physics, biology, psychology, and more. He tried to connect all of these fields. He tried to show how they fit together. He created a unified vision of reality. But the essay also says he is as beholden to Plato as Plato is to Pythagoras. And this is a provocative statement. It suggests that Aristotle's philosophy is not entirely his own. It's built on the foundation of Plato, just as Plato's philosophy was built on the foundation of Pythagoras. So is Aristotle just a systematizer of Plato's ideas, or did he create something genuinely new? I think he created something genuinely new. Yes, he was influenced by Plato, but he transformed those influences. He created a new way of thinking. He created empiricism. He created logic. He created the scientific method. Aristotle's legacy is immense. He is the father of logic. He is the father of empiricism. He's the father of many scientific disciplines. He's one of the greatest minds in history, and his influence continues to this day. We use his logic. We use his categories. We use his methods. We may not realize it, but we're all Aristotelians in some way. We're all looking at the world, observing it, categorizing it, trying to understand it. For the Temple of Set, Aristotle's legacy is a mixed one. They use his logic, they use his methods, but they reject his conclusions. They reject his natural slavery. They reject his mortal soul. They reject his golden mean. They take what is useful and leave the rest. So where does Aristotle fit in the Temple of Set's lineage? The Temple of Set traces its roots back to Egypt. They see Plato as a crucial link in that chain. But Aristotle, he's more problematic. He rejected the immortal soul. He rejected the forms. He rejected the idea of a higher reality. But he's still useful. He provides a method. He provides framework. He provides a way of thinking clearly. The Temple of Set can use his tools without accepting his conclusions. And there's another connection. Aristotle's philosophy was preserved by the Islamic world. It was translated into Arabic. It was studied and debated, and it was eventually reintroduced to Europe. This is a story of transmission. It's a story of preservation. It's a story of the survival of ideas. And the Temple of Set is part of that story. They're preserving ideas. They're transmitting ideas. They're keeping the flame alive. Aristotle's works were lost to Europe upon the fall of the Roman Empire. They survived in the Islamic world. They were rediscovered and then treated as Catholic dogma. What does this tell us about the importance of preserving and transmitting knowledge? And what does it mean that Aristotle's philosophy, created by a pagan who didn't believe in the immortal soul, became the official philosophy of the Catholic Church? How does this relate to the Temple of Set's mission of preserving ancient wisdom? This is a story about the survival of ideas. Aristotle's works were lost to Europe. They were preserved in the Islamic world. They were translated into Arabic, they were studied and debated, and they were reintroduced to Europe, where they became the foundation of medieval philosophy. The loss of Aristotle's works is a tragedy. He was one of the greatest minds in history. His ideas about logic, ethics, and metaphysics were lost for centuries, and Europe was impoverished by that loss. But the survival of his works is a triumph. They were preserved by the Islamic world, translated and studied, kept alive, and when they were reintroduced to Europe, they sparked a revolution. They sparked the Renaissance. They sparked the Enlightenment. They sparked the modern world. But there's a twist. Aristotle's philosophy was treated as Catholic dogma. Thomas Aquinas integrated Aristotle's ideas into Christian theology. He used Aristotle to justify the existence of God, the immortality of the soul, and the authority of the church. Aristotle became the official philosopher of Catholicism. And this is a strange fate for a pagan philosopher. Aristotle didn't believe in the personal God of Christianity. He didn't believe in the immortal soul. He didn't believe in an afterlife. And yet his ideas were used to support all of these beliefs. His philosophy was co-opted. It was transformed. It was put to a purpose he never intended. For the Temple of Set, this is a cautionary tale. Ideas can be co-opted. They can be transformed. They can be used to support things the original thinker never intended. This is why the temple is so careful about its own ideas. They don't want their philosophy to be co-opted. They don't want it to be used for purposes that they don't endorse. The Temple of Set sees itself as preserving ancient wisdom. They trace their lineage back to Egypt. They see themselves as guardians of the black flame. They want to keep the flame alive. They want to pass it on to future generations. Let's compare Aristotle's unmoved mover with the Temple of Set's concept of the black flame. The unmoved mover is an impersonal force. It's the ultimate cause of all motion. It's pure actuality. It's pure perfection. The black flame is the gift of Set. It's the questioning intellect. It's the power of self-consciousness. It's the spark of divinity within each individual. The unmoved mover is outside us. It's beyond us. We can understand it. We can contemplate it, but we can't become it. We can't merge with it. We can't embody it. The black flame is inside us. It's part of us. We can cultivate it. We can develop it. We can become it. We can embody it. And we can become like the gods. This is the difference between Aristotle and the Temple of Set. Aristotle looks outward. He looks for a cause. He looks for a principle. The temple looks inward. They look for the self. They look for the will. They look for the power to become. But there's also a similarity. Both Aristotle and the Temple of Set believe in a higher reality. Both believe in a principle that orders the universe. Both believe in the power of reason to understand that principle. The difference is in the goal. Aristotle wants to understand. The temple wants to become. Aristotle wants to contemplate. The temple wants to transform. Aristotle wants to know. The temple wants to be. So for the Temple of Set, Aristotle is a tool. He's a resource. He's a source of ideas. They use his logic, they use his methods, but they go beyond him. They add the will, they add the magic, they add the self-deification. They create a synthesis that is all their own. Now let's reflect on Aristotle's legacy. He was one of the greatest minds in history. He created a systematic philosophy that would shape Western thought for over 2,000 years. He taught us how to think. He taught us how to reason. He taught us how to understand the world. But he was also a man of his time. He defended slavery. He rejected the immortality of the soul. He was skeptical of the forms. He was a realist, not an idealist. And his ideas were co-opted. They were used to justify oppression. They are used to support dogma. They are used to maintain the status quo. This is the fate of great ideas. They can be used for good or for ill. The Temple of Set is aware of this. They don't accept Aristotle uncritically. They question him. They challenge him. They use what is useful and reject what is not. They create a philosophy that is their own. And that's what we should do. We should learn from Aristotle. We should use his methods. We should appreciate his genius, but we should also question him. We should challenge him. We should think for ourselves, because that's what philosophy is about. It's not about accepting the answers. It's about asking the questions. It's not about finding the truth. It's about seeking the truth. It's not about becoming like Aristotle. It's about becoming ourselves. So what's next? We've explored Egypt, Mesopotamia, pre-Socratic Greece, Plato, and Aristotle. We've traced the development of philosophy from its ancient roots to its classical flowering. But there's more. After Aristotle, Greek philosophy continued. It evolved, it diversified, it created new schools and new traditions. Next time, we'll explore the Hellenistic era. We'll look at the Epicureans, who sought pleasure and tranquility. We'll look at the Stoics, who sought virtue and the acceptance of fate. We'll look at the skeptics, who questioned everything. We'll see how Greek philosophy adapted to a changing world. We'll see how it influenced the Romans, the Christians, and the Arabs. It's going to be a fascinating journey. The Hellenistic era is a time of transition. It's a time of synthesis, a time of transformation, and it's a time that shaped the world we live in today. So please join me next time on the Ruby Tablet. We'll explore the philosophy of the Hellenistic era. We'll see how the ideas of Plato and Aristotle were transformed and adapted. We'll see how they influenced the development of Western thought. So join me next time for more philosophy, spirituality, and magic of the left-hand path.